I'm gonna be trying school lunch over the last 100 years, starting off with the year 1910. The year 1910 is where it all began in Boston. Boston was the first state to experiment with school lunches, and they started serving it 3 times a week at a whopping 3 cents per meal, but they weren't offered a whole lot to eat.
Alright, here we get the year 1910. If you think your school lunch now is bad, imagine getting a tomato sandwich every day for school lunch. But you know, honestly, not bad. I could mess up a tomato sandwich. Don't knock it till you try it, I guess. You know, apples are always good. I actually do love apples, though. And milk, I do not like milk. I don't like just drinking milk by itself, so I'm not gonna drink it, but that's 1910 school lunch.
Get 1920. The 1920s is where hot school lunch was born. School started serving hot lunches, which would consist of boiled meats, creamed veggies, and bread. They were simple, but, you know, kept the students fed.
Right, here we got 1920 school lunch. Now we're talking, we got some protein in here. I mean, it's not a lot, but at least it's something. Honestly, this is not a bad school lunch in my opinion. It just depends on the portion sizes. Because if they were loading those plates up with beef, spinach, those kids are probably energized. But if they're feeding them like, you know, really small portions, then yeah, I don't know. But you know, it's the 20s, bro.
1930s. 1930s. Ah, yes, the Great Depression. Farmers struggled to sell products, work was hard to find, but the kids still needed to eat. So school lunches really did vary based on the state, but an average bagged school lunch was baked beans, coffee, and a piece of bread.
Alright, here we got the 1930s, and man, I gotta say, this is pretty depressing. Nah, I'm just kidding. To be honest, I don't think it's that bad. If they gave the kids like an entire can of beans and they were baked beans, bro, I'd be happy. I'd be in a good mood. I'd be like, yeah, f yeah, I'll eat some beans. I'll throw some beans on toast. Elite combo. But if they're only giving them, you know, like 2 spoonfuls of beans, that would suck. That'd be hard. Well, anyways, that's the 1930s.
Year 1940. Now, in the year 1940, the U.S. now had federally funded lunch programs, but that didn't mean the food was good. Now, this was during World War II, and fresh food would rot while it was still being transported, so a lot of the food was hardly even edible. And the food that was edible was pretty damn strange. Like, this is supposed to be liver loaf. I don't even know what the f that is, but it sounds disgusting. Along with the fruit, bread, milk, and some veggies, you know, if they weren't rotten.
Alright, school lunch from the 1940s, let's go. Oh yeah, man, love some liver loaf, whatever that is. So this beef meatloaf that I got from that frozen meal, straight up booty cheeks. Tastes like what I imagined prison food to actually taste like. Dude actually marketed that and sold it. But aside from the meatloaf tasting like cheeks, everything else, honestly pretty normal, you know, fruit, veggies, bread, and then a protein, and then milk. The only weird thing is the, you know, liver loaf. I think this is pretty filling. Definitely a step up from the 1930s. Obviously, that's the 1940s.
The year 1950. So in the 1950s, schools had to increase production because of the baby boomers. Lots of kids were born, lots of mouths to feed, so private food companies got into the school lunch business. They started serving a variety of food, mainly protein-heavy dishes like cheese meatloaf, sausage shortcake, I don't even know what that is, ham and beans scallop, pretty much nothing healthy, and they really didn't serve any vegetables.
Alright, 1950s school lunch. Now we're talking, baby. We got some calories on the plate. First off, the meatloaf is called cheese meatloaf. Got really popular in the 50s. I don't even know what cheese meatloaf is. So I just got regular beef meatloaf. Surprisingly not awful for being in those like 60-second meals. Then we got scalloped potatoes. Scalloped potatoes go hard. Then they have a custard or a pudding of some sort. I just got rice pudding because rice pudding is delicious. God damn. And missing one item, it was a sausage shortcake. I don't even know what that is. Imagine that there's a sausage shortcake right here. That's the 1950s. They still haven't discovered flavor yet, but you know, I think the 60s is when they discover flavor.
Year 1960. When the 1960s is when they finally added pizza to the lunch menu. Now it was just that nasty rectangular pizza, but you know, I mean, it was still pizza. Now it was either that, enchiladas, fish sticks, or peanut butter and jelly sandwiches. And bro, you cannot go wrong with PB&J. So at this time, schools began to centralize their cafeteria, and the modern day cafeteria began to take shape. I like pizza and PB&J, so I decided to try both.
Alright, the 1960s. Finally discovered a little bit of flavor here. Oh man, back in middle school, pizza days at school lunch, my absolute favorite. They were so good before Michelle came in and destroyed all of it. And bro, you can never go wrong with a PB&J. To this day, one of the best things you can make in under 2 minutes. So damn delicious. And bro, they were giving these kids pretzels too. They were eating good back in the 60s.
1970. So in the 1970s, fruits and veggies were unheard of for school lunch because fast food chains started selling their products in schools. So students were just smacking down cheeseburgers, fried chicken, Jell-O, you name it.
Alright, here we got 1970s school lunch. We're not eating too bad in the 70s. Oh yeah, sound like a good piece of fried chicken after algebra. And then they were served Jell-O. I think Jell-O just got really popular around this time. I don't eat Jell-O. I don't know anybody that just voluntarily eats that garbage. So we're gonna substitute that with some rice pudding because rice pudding is actually delicious. But for real, does anybody actually eat Jell-O? I gotta say, the 70s, their school lunch was not that bad.
The year 1980. Right, so in the year 1980, the federal budget reduced the school lunch program significantly. So portions were smaller and their nutritional guidelines were hardly even there. I mean, they actually classified ketchup as a vegetable. Metal lunchboxes became super popular, and inside it, you just might find Lunchables, because this came out in the 80s and became one of the best-selling kids products of all time.
Alright, the year 1980. I feel like this is a very standard school lunch in today's time even. It's just not that far off. And you know, a lot of people talk smack about these fruit cups, but you know, dude, when I was younger, I would slurp these things up. And chocolate pudding. Tastes great. I mean, I don't have anything negative to say about chocolate pudding. Bro, Lunchables coming out in the 80s changed the school lunch game forever. I remember every time school lunch rolled around and there was that one kid that would have like a Lunchables and we'd all look at him with envy. And that kid would just sit in there smacking. You know, a lot's changed since I was in elementary school, but the one thing that I can appreciate is that Lunchables, they never changed. Taste the exact same. Taste the nostalgia.
1990. Now in the 90s, instead of just cooking burgers, fries, nasty pizzas, they just let fast food chains into their cafeterias. Yeah, so the federal government pretty much just allowed any fast food chain to set up shop. Schools happily accepted funding. Fast food companies were pumped as f to sell to hungry teenagers. But the 90s is where obesity rates started to skyrocket.
Alright, here we got the 90s, and I gotta say, man, despite how unhealthy it is, they were eating good back in the 90s. I mean, shit. I've never tried this burger restaurant. It's like a local one. But my god, the burger looks crazy. Oh my god. Holy shit. This wasn't supposed to be a food review. This got a local burger and fries, you know, for the video. But my god, even the fries are banging. I don't know if any of you guys even live near it, but it's called Angelo's Burgers. And god damn, shit's so good that I forgot what video I was filming. Anyways, 1990 school lunch. Definitely not healthy, but I can only imagine they were pretty happy.
2000. In the 2000s, decision makers started to notice that obesity rates were getting higher. Kids were getting chunkier, so they started switching up their menus to somewhat healthier meals, and this is what we got.
Alright, school lunch from the year 2000. Major downgrade. We're not doing so hot now. I mean, the grilled chicken is great, but you gotta keep in mind, they're making this for so many students that they're not focused on quality, they're focused on quantity. That chicken probably tastes rubbery as hell. Now I got the celery or whatever vegetable they decide to throw up that day. Kind of funny because while I understand they really want to promote healthy eating, nutrition, none of these kids are eating celery for school lunch. Staring right at that thing on the plate, they're not even touching it. Apples, on the other hand, it's a different story. So, you know, honestly, if I was going to school in the year 2000, I'd hate school lunch. I'd just pack myself some Lunchables every day.
Year 2010. 2010, Michelle Obama's primary focus was to reverse the trend of childhood obesity, so she launched the Let's Move campaign. Part of the program was replacing low nutritional food with high nutritional food, but to keep things cost effective, they'd use some pretty trash ingredients because healthy food is actually expensive. You know, she pushed for school lunches to be healthier. It sounds good in theory, but the food was awful, cheap, and poorly made.
Alright, 2010 school lunch, Curse of Michelle. I mean, she did have good intentions though. I just don't think it was executed right. For a fact that the wraps did not taste this good at school lunch. I mean, this is gourmet compared to what they served the kids back in school lunch. Damn. Honestly, I just went to Walmart and tried to find the worst one I could find. Low-key, very, very good. Now, this is around the time that I stopped eating school lunch. I started bringing food from home. Because our school used to just serve pizza from pizza chains, and then they switched to this nasty cardboard pizza. It was so bad. And the portion sizes got so much smaller. Yes. Well, one more year to go. 2020.
Year 2020. 2020, what a great year for school lunch. Oh, hold up. Sandwich isn't supposed to look like that. Yep, that's better. Food is made in bulk for a large group of students on a very tight budget. Schools are now just focusing on cheap, edible, mass-produced food, and the result, pretty much just bland, nasty food that is, you know, still edible.
2020 school lunch. No, I think I nailed this one. Yeah. Tastes like disappointment, all right. I had some of my followers send me pictures of their school lunch a few years ago, and I got a photo of a hot dog and a taco. And then I Googled it to see if there was like an actual school, and it is. School lunches have done that. Some school lunches put literally like a hot dog on bread. Not even a hot dog bun, just bread. So, you know, 2020 and beyond is just the years where they just stopped giving a f completely. All right, well, that was a fun series. Let me know what you guys want to see next.